Welcome to the 8-Bit Instructor Podcast, a show dedicated to helping you level up your instruction in order to craft authentic learning experiences for both you and your students. I'm your host, Lee Tucker, a high school English teacher and ed tech enthusiast, and I want to join you on your journey to becoming the best instructor that you possibly can. So if you're ready, grab your adventuring gear and let's get going. Hey, what is up, 8-Bit crew? It's Thursday, August 13th, 2020, and this is episode 3 of the 8-Bit Instructor Podcast. Welcome back to the show. I've got a great lineup for you today. We're going to have another little treasure chest tip. Our boss battle today, we'll be talking about taking care of body, mind, and soul. And later on, we'll take a look at feedback and look at this week's question of the week. But before we get into that, let's take a look at some news and updates. So we're still in the middle of this pre-planning, extended pre-planning deal this week and next week. We've got a soft opening where students are coming in as a kind of an extended open house. So I've just been really getting stuff together. I've really enjoyed having extended pre-planning. I've been able to work on a lot of stuff and a lot of ideas that I wanted to do, but typically don't have time to do. So it's been nice and productive. I've got several updates on some different online sites for you today. First up, Wakelet. If you don't know what Wakelet is, it's like an online pinning board, I guess similar to what Pinterest is, but it's geared a lot towards education, and you can share out boards and collaborate and all that kind of stuff. Wakelet has just introduced permissions on your group collections, so you can add people to a collection and set permissions. You can make somebody either a contributor or an administrator. And those are, like most places, a contributor is going to be able to post stuff and add stuff. The administrator role will be able to manage, edit, and delete things. So that's something new that Wakelet is going to be rolling out here pretty soon. Also, on the Flipgrid blog, they just released a lot of new updates and new features for Flipgrid. So I'm going to just kind of go over some of these as a quick overview. First of all, they're adding some new features and functions to the camera. So you've got boards now that you can do. So they have new backgrounds like graph paper, lined paper, dotted paper for math teachers. You got cork boards. And one of the really cool things that I like is they're adding a split screen recording. So you can have your video on one side and you can have a board on the other. So that's actually a pretty cool new feature. Additionally, they're adding some new fonts, new filters, frames, and stickers, just to add some of that style, some of that fun to videos that you would create. Also, they have updated the kind of learner experience on there. So now you've got topic view, which is kind of an easier way to view and respond to topic prompts that a teacher posts. They've got a video view, so when you click on a video, they've kind of redesigned what it looks like, and you'll be able to kind of see some new features on that. Later on in the fall, they're going to be adding comments. So you've got student comments and educator comments that are coming. So students and teachers can comment and leave feedback on student videos. So that would be, similar to, I guess, probably how you would be able to do it on YouTube. And of course, all of this can be moderated by an educator. So don't stress out about the types of comments. You can moderate that. They've even got their AI on their site that looks for bullying and toxic language to make sure that it's not getting too negative. They've also changed up the educator dashboard a little bit, so you've got standalone topics that you can use now. Grids has changed to groups, so you can use that instead to create maybe class periods or something like that. They've added individual email access, so if you want to share out with parents, you can grant access to them to be able to view that. Or other guests that you might want to have on there. They're integrating Adobe Spark to make those videos play right inside a Flipgrid topic, which is pretty cool, being able to integrate some of those other tools. Quick View is a quick way to watch, reply, edit captions right from your educator dashboard. So just giving you fewer clicks to go through. And group banners, and this is actually something I just kind of checked out earlier this week, is being able to add a new theme kind of banner. I was able to actually integrate or upload a custom one that I made that I use for my Google Classroom, which is actually kind of cool. And then coming in later on this fall, they're going to add a feature where you can add to multiple groups. So similar to if you use Google Classroom a lot and know how you can post an assignment to multiple classes, the multiple groups thing seems to be a similar idea there. And the final thing Flipgrid kind of posts is the updated Discovery library. So they're adding collections to it, so you can share a group of topics rather than just a single topic. They're going to be having a topic of the day and wonder of the day features to feature some specific topics, and also partnering up with Wonderopolis to add some new features there. And then they're also adding a partners page for some of the business partners that help them out, like Minecraft Education Edition, Made by Dyslexia, ADL Education, and so on. So a lot of cool features coming out for Flipgrid here now and later on in the fall. So be looking forward to that. Last thing from the Google Keyword blog, which I thought was kind of cool, Grasshopper has a new desktop version that's called Grasshopper Gallery. If you don't know what Grasshopper is, it's a mobile phone app that helps you learn coding. It kind of builds everything from the ground up. I've done some stuff on Grasshopper. It's pretty cool. Makes it pretty easy to learn. It's set up really well. But they have a desktop version now called Grasshopper Gallery, which actually lets students do more creation with it. So it's more than just, I guess, kind of lessons. They can actually, it says, create visualizations, mini games, web pages, and more. So it's just kind of like a free canvas for students who are learning code to be able to just kind of design something on their own. So if you got students who are into coding, tell them to check out Grasshopper Gallery. That's about all I have this week for news and updates. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what's in the treasure chest today. This week's treasure chest contains a little tip for Google Slides. This is a cool little tip that I came across a few weeks ago, I think, on Twitter. I believe it was from Jake Miller that I saw this. So I know a lot of times when I'm adding pictures to Google Slides as a background, I get really frustrated with having to resize them and crop them and all that. If you've got a pretty standard sized slide, so like the standard 4x3 or something to that effect, if you add a picture that you want to use as a background or use as a full screen, if you click on the Explore button, it's down in the bottom right corner, it's going to pull up a little sidebar menu, and there is a feature on there that is called full bleed, and what that will do is it will resize and crop the picture to fit the screen. So just in that single click, it's going to do all that resizing for you. It's super helpful. I checked it out, and it saves a whole lot of time if you're having to constantly resize and crop pictures. So check that out. It works, like I said, for standard sizes. When I was putting together some Google Classroom banners, I couldn't get it to work, so I imagine it really just works with some of those regular dimensions. So check that out. It's the Explore button, and then you just click on Full Bleed. That will take care of this week's treasure chest. Hopefully you got your gear ready, because here comes the boss battle. So today's boss battle is something I had not originally planned on doing, but in light of our current context, I thought it was something that it would be important to set up and establish as good habits as we get into the year. So what we're looking at today is establishing some foundational habits and practices to help take care of mind, body, and soul. Taking care of your whole self is something that is going to be very crucial in our school year this year, with all the different things that are going on. The amount of stress that we're going to have to deal with is probably going to be a lot more than it typically is in a normal year. So I wanted to kind of look at some various practices that can help improve your physical health, your mental health, emotional health, spiritual health. All of them go kind of hand in hand. So it's not like we just do something that just takes care of our physical health, or something that we do that takes care of our emotional well-being. A lot of these are very much interconnected. So I wanted to just go through some of these things, talk about some of my experience with them, and set up some hopefully practices that will help you work throughout the year. So the first thing that I want to look at is just something that is pretty simple to implement, even though it is difficult to master, and that is utilizing relaxation and meditation techniques. So any kind of relaxation or meditation techniques carries a lot of benefits with it. It helps slow your heart rate, helps lower blood pressure, helps improve digestion. It can help you maintain normal blood sugar levels, also reduces the activity of stress hormones, and several other things. So these are things that help, again, kind of in all of these different areas. But there's several different kinds of techniques that you can do to help you relax, or meditative practices that you can put into place. And I would encourage you to just check out some of the different ones, find out what works well for you. So some of the techniques that I found, and I'll link to an article from the Mayo Clinic that has a lot of this information on it as well. Some deep breathing techniques, just taking a few minutes to take slow, deep, steady breaths that will help kind of calm everything down. Massage therapy is one that is proven to help out, and I'd love to have that. I'd love to have a massage therapy session on a daily basis if I could. Fortunately, it's a little expensive for what I make, but if you are able to do that, maybe there's some way that you can finagle your health insurance to pay for those as maybe some job-related stress relief. I don't know. But if you can do that, definitely take advantage of it. Meditation is something that over the last year and a half I have worked to kind of improve on myself. What I will do, which I have found is helpful, is to find a quiet, comfortable place, and I'll put on like some thunderstorm sounds or ocean waves to get a little ambience, a little white noise in the room, but nothing that's going to interrupt my thought process. And then I will just focus on a word or a phrase. So maybe I'm feeling ill at ease. Peace might be the word that I focus on. Or in my Bible reading, I might come across a phrase that I would focus on. And all I'll do then is I'll sit down and I'll set like maybe a 10-minute timer, and I will just focus on that word peace. And inevitably, my mind is going to wander. I don't know if I'm sure a lot of you are kind of the same way, but I just start thinking about what I have to do, things that happened yesterday, things that are going on today. But having that word to come back to helps me kind of recenter and refocus. So I'll sit on some pillows, I'll close my eyes, I'll let the white noise kind of take over and just think about that word peace. And then anytime my mind wanders, as soon as I catch myself wandering, I just go back to that word peace. So that's a great thing that you can do. There are also a lot of apps and resources online that offer guided meditation practices that will help guide you through that process. So if that's something that you think you might have a hard time with, look for some guided meditation, maybe some YouTube videos or something like that. Some more physical kind of activities that are really good for relaxation meditation are Tai Chi and yoga. So they are mind practices as much as they are body practices. So look through maybe that list, find some stuff that will work for you. You might not be able to do Tai Chi because you don't have anywhere to take it, don't have a teacher. So maybe instead you work on some deep breathing techniques. And one last thing I will say with that is it's something that's going to take time. Something like mindful practice and meditation is not something that you're going to master right away. So take your time with it, continue to practice, don't give up. I remember when I started getting into some of the meditation stuff, one of the things I read is that to give it at least 6 months before you give up and say that you can't do it. And so don't think that it might be something that you're going to get perfect in a few days. Another thing that I think is incredibly crucial, especially right now, is to learn how to separate work from home. So back in March when we went online, I was working from home, and so work and home kind of blended together into this kind of hodgepodge of the same thing. I'd be, working on some teaching stuff for my classes online, but then I'd have to go take care of something for my daughter. And it's easy to kind of mesh those things together. I know that it's something a lot of teachers have a hard time with. We talk about how much we work from home, work on the weekends and all that. It's something that I have a hard time with. I just can't turn it off. I might be watching an episode of a show on TV and it makes me think of something I can do in class. Or if it just never turns off. And some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. So a couple things that I have done that I'm going to have to make sure I get back into the habit of doing, because back when we were online, I was not doing this as much. One is to just set a specific time to stop working. Sometimes I try to leave work at work as much as possible, but I do inevitably have to do some things at home sometimes. So what I started doing is to set a specific time that I would be done working. So if I got home and needed to work a little bit after dinner, I would still set a specific time. So maybe 6 o'clock is my time to stop. And again, that's because I'm an old man. I go to bed early. I go to bed at like 9 o'clock. So I want to have a little bit of time in the evening to not worry about work. Plus, some of the stuff I've read talks about if you should stop working at least about 2 hours before you go to bed. Otherwise, your brain is still in a very active mode and it's going to prevent you from sleeping well. So set that hard time and hold yourself to it. If it's 8 o'clock, it's 8 o'clock. If you're right in the middle of something and it is 8 o'clock, you stop doing it and you take care of it tomorrow. Again, I know it's hard because there's always that whole idea of I got to be ready for tomorrow, but be intentional about it. The other thing that is incredibly important, I think, is to turn off your work emails on your phones or tablets or anything like that. Again, this is something that I was not doing back when we were online in the spring, and it's something that I need to remember to do when we start back to school. Before we went online, I unsynced my work email from my phone. I turned off all notifications for work email because I didn't want to constantly be getting notifications about emails from work. And it's not just maybe like a parent email or an administrator email. It's just something as simple as like newsletters that I've subscribed to or anything like that. I'm constantly getting notifications on my phone. So I finally got tired of it. I turned it off. I unsynced it. I could still pull up my work email if I needed to, but it would only show me new emails if I actually went through the process of refreshing it. So that's just one of those things. I think by turning those notifications off, it prevents you from constantly looking at your emails and all that. So those are a couple of things I would throw out there to help you separate work from home. The next thing is something that I've done this for years, and it's super helpful for me, and that's journaling. I do it for a creative kind of thing, as a creative outlet. I do what's called morning pages. It comes out of this book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And the whole purpose of the morning pages is to do a bunch of free writing to help free your mind up, to allow creativity come through. But it's also a great journaling practice. So what I do is I'll sit down every morning when I get up and I will just write 2 pages of whatever comes to mind. It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be anything important. Just writing it down. And what I inevitably end up writing about a lot of times are things that I have to do, to-do lists, things that happened to me yesterday, things that are going to happen to me today. Basically, the whole idea is to get out everything that is going through your mind, so you're not constantly dwelling on it. There's just something about writing down what's in your head that seems to just kind of get it out of your head and let other things kind of fill that in. So journaling is definitely a thing that I would highly suggest. It doesn't have to be the morning pages like what I do for my other stuff, but it could be something as simple as keeping a little notebook in your desk at school, and then at the end of the day, jotting down kind of what's happened today. That's another way that I've journaled before, where I kind of looked at what was good that happened today, what are some places that probably could have been improved on, and that just helps me reflect on the day, but also kind of process it and not dwell on it. Next thing, super important. I know all you guys have heard of this, but I also know that a lot of teachers don't like doing it, and that's exercise. So exercise is something that often falls by the wayside just because of the nature of our jobs. But there is a lot of connection between physical exercise and mental health. Just the physical process that your body goes through when you do exercise, the endorphins, all that kind of stuff. And I know a lot of you have heard a lot about a lot of those kind of benefits, so I'm not going to dwell too much on it. But I would encourage you to find some kind of exercise routine. It doesn't have to, you don't have to be a super CrossFit extraordinaire posting your workouts every single day on Instagram. but find something that works for you. Lift weights, go for a walk, get outside. Even something like maybe mowing the grass can be a type of physical exercise. You don't have to be this great athlete. Just do something to get your body moving. I know one of the things that I struggle with as far as that goes is, after I've had a full day of work, when I get home, the last thing I want to do is exert more energy. I want to sit down on the couch and I want to relax. So knowing that, I know that as soon as my butt goes on that couch, I'm not getting back up. So I try to make it a point to work out or exercise as soon as I get home before I get settled in. So we actually, my wife and I bought a Peloton bike back in January, which has been great and has really helped me get into a good exercise routine. And it's something that works pretty well for me. I used to be a runner, but it's really rough on my knees now, so it's hard for me to go out running. And so that was a good replacement. And then sometimes I just go out for a walk in the neighborhood. I'll put some music on. I might even take some time to dictate some writing. But I'll walk about 1.5 miles, 2 miles, just to get out, get some fresh air. And that was super helpful back in the spring when we were online too, since I was cooped up inside the house all the time. But find that time. Some of you, it might be waking up 30 minutes earlier to do some kind of exercise routine, do some push-ups, do some cardio, whatever. Some of you, it might be more when you get back home before you settle in for the evening. But find that place, find that exercise, find that time, and make sure you stay consistent with it. I'm not saying that you got to go out and spend a bunch of money on a Peloton. Something as simple as, getting a jump rope could work. If you do get a Peloton, though, you can connect up with me. If you want to follow me, I'm at tuckandroll83. I'll put that in the show notes. But I'm not expecting any followers. I'm not very good at it. I'm like a middle of the pack kind of guy. The other thing that I have also found helpful is finding a hobby and focusing on that. If you have something at home that you love doing and you are looking forward to doing that when you get home, that is going to take your mind off of work a lot of times. So I have a lot of hobbies that I do. I'm always finding new hobbies. I love reading. I love writing. I love drawing. This podcast is something that kind of came out of a hobby of mine. I like to sit down and play video games. And yes, video games can be a relaxation kind of technique. So don't listen to people who say video games are terrible for you. They're not. They're great. But anyway, find some kind of hobby. Take your mind off of things that are going on. Another thing that's more of a mindset thing that I think would be important for us to do is to be intentional about finding good. Look, there's no shortage of negative things going on right now, and there never really has been. There's always negative that you can find. The negative is going to be the obvious. The negative is what gets blown up in the news because positive things don't get ratings. So you have to be intentional about finding the good things in the day. Bad things are going to happen. Look, even in a normal school year, bad things will happen. Students mouth off at you, parents get upset, all kinds of stuff. It's easy to focus on that negative stuff. Find the good and focus on that. It goes back to that whole idea of meditative practices. So you made a good connection with a student today. Focus on that. You had a student that got excited about something that you taught them today. Focus on that. Remember why we're doing what we're doing. It's really easy for teachers especially to group up and start to spiral down the negative rabbit hole of everything that's wrong. And I'm not saying to completely ignore that. I'm not saying to have rose-colored glasses where you think everything is lovely and wonderful. Acknowledge the bad, sure, but don't focus on it. Don't dwell on it. It's gonna just really infest you, and you're going to end up in a very negative place. If you are a glasses half empty kind of person, find somebody who's positive that can help you see those positive things. And, worst case scenario, if you really need somewhere to vent, I think I'm actually going to create a Google Voice account with a phone number that you can just call and leave a voicemail to vent. Because sometimes you do just need to yell. So, the more and more I think about it, the more and more I'm convinced that that might be something that I want to do. So I think I might create a teacher vent line, and I'll post that number up, and you can leave a voicemail on it or text your frustrations out. But get them out and then be done with it. Find the good. Find that silver lining. Another thing that kind of goes along with that, though, is to find somebody outside of work to talk to. A lot of times when we get together and we talk to other teachers, we get in that spiral. We focus on that kind of negative stuff. Sometimes it's great to have somebody that has an outside perspective who's not inside the world of education to help you see kind of the reality of how things are. So find some of those outside sources to maybe listen to you, but not just somebody to vent to, somebody that can give you good advice and good ways of dealing with it. And the last thing I'll say about this, for the love of everything that is good and holy in the world, get off of social media. And I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek. If getting on Facebook and seeing everybody's opinions gets you riled up and upset, then you need to get off of there. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on a lot of social media accounts, but there comes a point sometimes where I just have to stop logging on because I get so tired of seeing all of the negativity, all of the vitriol and divisive comments that are on there. If you have to, unfriend some people, unfollow people. If all you see is negative in your feed, then maybe you're following the wrong people. Maybe you're friends with the wrong people. I'm not going to say much more than that. I could probably rant an entire episode length about social media, but just make sure that you're handling it. The last thing that I want to talk about too, which is something that has been taboo, is less taboo now than it was, and it's another really important thing to kind of keep in mind. If you need to see a mental health professional, please do that. If it's necessary, if you are struggling and are not able to cope with things, find somebody that can help you. I pulled up just kind of a list of some statistics that I found just about mental health and all that kind of stuff. Anxiety disorders are the most common mental illnesses in the United States. There's about 18.1% of the population 18 and older deals with some kind of anxiety disorder. That's about 1 in 5 people have some kind of mental anxiety disorder. That's not something that needs to be overlooked. That's a serious issue. That's a large percentage. You put that into perspective. Think about how many teachers are in your building. That means 20% of them. So we have about 70 to 80 teachers, not to mention the staff and all that are in our school. Out of that number, we're looking at, I can't do quick math, but 20% of 80, that's what, about 15, 16 people that statistically have some type of mental health kind of issue. Major depressive disorder is a really common one. It's back in 2017, about an estimated 17.3 million adults in the United States had at least one major depressive episode, which was about 7.1% of the population. These are statistics that they're very real. These are things that we should be aware of, and it shouldn't be a taboo thing. It should not be a point of embarrassment that we are working on some of these things. You know, if you broke your arm and told somebody that you were going to the doctor to get your arm looked at, nobody's going to laugh at you and say, "Oh, you're such a weakling. Why are you going to the doctor?" If you would go to the doctor to get something physically taken care of, why wouldn't you also do the same for your mental well-being? And I have a personal connection to this, and I'll tell a quick story and be done. But last year, beginning of the year, 2019, second day of school, I was getting ready at home, and I just had this feeling of being overwhelmed, and I had just a breakdown. I just started sobbing uncontrollably, and I just had this feeling I can't do this. And the weird thing was it was not anything bad. Nothing bad happened the day before. Things were actually going pretty well. I felt really good about what I was doing at my job. The year before that had been a good year. There was really no reason for why I felt the way I felt. And yet I had this just feeling of just whoa, and like I couldn't do what I was doing. And it was not the first time that something like that had happened. And so I finally I got tired of it and decided to get something done about it. So, I called, I made a doctor's appointment, and I got checked out, and I got diagnosed with major depression disorder. And it's something that, looking back is not something new. It's something that I've dealt with for a long time, but I didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to seem weak or like I didn't have things together. But when I finally kind of admitted that I needed it, that I needed help, that I wanted to do something about it, I got that help. And I actually, ever since then, I've had a great go. Even when we had to switch to online, I did not feel so overwhelmed. I wasn't stressed out. I didn't feel so stressed out. I didn't have this feeling of despondency. And so putting a name on it, being able to identify what was wrong, and then getting the kind of help that I needed really helped me out. And so I would encourage you, if things that you have tried have not worked, if you need to seek other help, please make sure you do it, because your well-being is a lot more important than looking like you have it together. So I know that was kind of a serious way to end this section, but these are things that I think are going to be very important for us this year. And make sure that you are taking care of yourself. And if you need to reach out to me, please reach out to me. You know how to get a hold of me, contact me. But I think that will hopefully kind of help us, level up where we are in our world and in our profession. So that will take care of today's boss battle. Hopefully you're feeling a little bit more ready to tackle this year. So we'll take care of that. Up next is going to be the 8-Bit Crew Board. For this week's question of the week, I want to know, what goal do you have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself this year? So what is one goal that you can set for yourself to make sure that you are taking care of mind, body, soul? Maybe it's exercising regularly. Maybe it is adding one of the practices I talked about, or maybe it's something else that you've been wanting to do. But let me know. You can put your responses up on Twitter, tag me at Comic Socks, and use the hashtag 8BitCrew. And you never know, maybe in a few months I will check back in on you and see how you're doing with that goal. Well, that will just about wrap up this episode. Thanks so much for listening. Hey, next week, you don't want to miss it. I've got a special guest coming in. I've got John Meehan, who's coming in to talk a little bit about social justice and a little bit of gamification. So definitely an episode you don't want to miss. I appreciate you listening. Make sure you connect with me online on Twitter at Comic Socks and the hashtag 8BitCrew. Check out my YouTube channel and the website and the blog at 8bitinstructor.com. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit subscribe so you can get every new episode as it releases, and leave me a review in your podcast app. But of course, most importantly, make sure you tell others about it. Word of mouth is the best way to get this out there. If you want to support the show, you can go to my Patreon page at patreon.com/8bitinstructor. I've got some goodies in there for some of those different tiers. So that will wrap up this week's episode. Until next week, keep your swords sharp and your shields strong. Thanks so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and check out the 8-Bit Instructor YouTube channel for EdTech tips and tutorials, as well as other content on my website, 8bitinstructor.com. And of course, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Comic Socks and use the hashtag 8BitCrew. See you next week.